Picture a guy who owns a pizza shop. He sells maybe 150 pizzas a day. Pepperoni, cheese, the usual, and somehow every single year he makes an extra few $1,000,000 without selling one more slice. Sounds impossible, right? That's not a magic trick. That's not a typo. That's exactly how the New York Mafia ran their finances for decades. So here's the question that's been sitting in front of you your whole life, and you never noticed it. Why does the mob love pizza so much? Why is there always a laundromat in every mob movie you've ever seen? And if the FBI can just look at the receipts, why couldn't they just arrest these guys on day one? Here's the twist. The Mafia wasn't hiding their money. Hiding money is easy. Bury it in the backyard, done. What they were doing is way harder and way smarter. They made dirty money look like it had never been dirty in the first place. That's not hiding. That's alchemy. And by the end of this video, you're going to understand a financial trick so simple, so elegant, that it's still being used today, just with better wallpaper. To understand why a pizza shop became a bank, we first need to answer a question that sounds almost stupid. Can a $100 bill commit a crime? Here's the thing nobody tells you about money. It has no memory. Take $200 bills. Put them side by side. Physically, chemically, atomically identical. Same paper, same ink, same dead president staring back at you. The only difference between them is invisible. One came from a customer buying a large pepperoni pizza. The other came from a customer buying a kilo of cocaine. The bill itself doesn't know the difference, but the banking system does, and it only cares about one question: where did this come from? If you can't answer that question, your money is basically useless. Let's say you're sitting on $20 million from drug sales. Congratulations, you're rich on paper, you can't show anyone. You can't. Deposit it in a bank. Buy a house with it. Put it in the stock market. Because the second you try, someone asks, where did this come from? And trust me, is not an acceptable answer to a bank compliance officer. This is the actual bottleneck of organized crime. Not making money, that part's easy when you're selling something illegal. The hard part is spending it without getting arrested. It's like being handed $1 billion in a video game currency that doesn't exist outside the game. Most people assume criminals struggle to earn money. Wrong. For the Mafia, earning was the easy part. Spending was the nightmare. This is where terms like anti-money laundering, know your customer, and suspicious activity reports come from an entire global system built around one goal: making sure money has to explain itself. So if the problem is that dirty money has no backstory, what does the mob actually do about it? Simple. They write it a new one. This is the 20% of the story that explains 80% of how this whole system works. So let's slow down here. Step 1. Placement. This is getting dirty cash into the legitimate economy. Say you've got $100,000 from selling drugs. You can't just walk into a bank and drop it on the counter. That's basically mailing yourself a subpoena. So you break it up, small amounts, and you feed it through places built to swallow cash without blinking. Casinos, restaurants, pizza shops, laundromats. The dirty cash gets mixed in with real, legitimate daily revenue, like pouring a glass of dirty water into a swimming pool. Step 2. Layering. Now you build a maze. The money moves through 10 companies, 5 countries, 3 bank accounts, 2 investment funds. By the time it's done bouncing around, nobody, not the money, not the investigators, not even the guy who started it, can trace it back to where it began. This is exactly why offshore tax havens, mysterious shell companies, and companies that seem to do absolutely nothing but somehow have a bank account keep showing up in every financial crime story you've ever heard. Step 3. Integration. The money comes home, except now it's not drug money. It's business profit, dividends, salary, investment returns. Nobody sees the cocaine anymore. All they see is a successful businessman with a very nice pizza chain. Here's a better way to think about this than the money laundering name suggests. Forget washing machines. Think Photoshop. You're not erasing the past. You're editing the photo until nobody can tell it was ever touched. This entire system is why global watchdogs like FATF and FinCEN exist, and it's why banking giants like HSBC and Denmark's Danske Bank have ended up in massive money laundering scandals of their own, proving this isn't just a mob problem, it's a financial system problem. But out of literally every business type on Earth, Why did the mob keep circling back to pizza, laundromats, and car washes specifically? Let's break this down piece by piece because every single reason ties back to one core idea: plausible deniability. A. It's a cash business. Nobody outside that shop knows exactly how many customers walked in today. You say 500 people bought pizza. Maybe it was 300. Good luck proving otherwise. B. Every transaction is small. A pizza costs $20. A wash costs $15. A car wash costs $25. Nobody's auditing every single receipt for a $20 pizza. That would be insane. And that's exactly the point. C. Ingredient costs are flexible. Flour, cheese, pepperoni, prices swing, waste happens, portions vary. It's nearly impossible to nail down the real cost of a pizza to the cent, which means profit margins can be quietly stretched. D. Revenue naturally fluctuates. Busy days, slow days, rainy days, holidays. Nobody blinks when a small business's numbers bounce around. That's just business. E-cash means barely any paper trail. Here's the elegant part. A normal shop has to prove, I really sold this. The Mafia only has to prove, I could plausibly have sold this. That gap between proving something happened and proving something merely could have happened is where an entire criminal financial system lived for decades. Real case in point, the actual pizza connection case in the United States, where a network of pizza shops was used to move heroin, funnel profits, and clean the money that came out the other end. Not a movie plot. Real investigation. Real convictions. So if it's this simple, why isn't every corner shop secretly laundering millions? Time to push back on the assumption. A lot of people picture money laundering like this: open a shop, fake the books, done, easy money, wrong, dead wrong. If you want to claim $1 million in fake revenue, you now have to make everything else match that number. Ingredient purchases, staff wages, utility bills, taxes, inventory, actual customer volume. Every single piece has to line up, or the whole story falls apart under scrutiny. This is exactly why laundering money isn't a hobby, it's a profession. It requires accountants, lawyers, financial specialists, underground bankers. Here's the real tightrope walk. Claim too little revenue, and you can't wash enough money to matter. Claim too much, and the tax authorities come knocking with very specific questions. The hardest part was never lying. It was lying just enough. And there's no better proof of this than Al Capone, arguably the most infamous mobster in American history. He wasn't taken down for murder, extortion, or bootlegging. He went to prison for tax evasion. The lesson stuck for a century. Money is always the weak point, not the gun. But then technology showed up, and the entire game started to change. Let me bring this into the present. Cash usage has dropped. Digital payments dominate. And now you've got AI, big data, anti-money laundering software, and blockchain analytics all working together to trace money in ways that simply didn't exist when Capone was running numbers. Laundering cash the old-fashioned way is genuinely harder now. So organized crime has shifted toward real estate, cryptocurrency, art, international shell companies, complex offshore structures. But here's the twist. Cash-heavy businesses haven't disappeared from this world. They're still useful because some industries remain genuinely difficult to audit with total precision. And here's the bigger idea worth sitting with. One day, pizza shops might stop being a laundering tool entirely, but the principle behind it never will. Because money laundering was never really about pizza. It's about trust paperwork and the ability to build a story that sounds believable enough that nobody bothers checking it twice. Massive leaks like the FinCEN files, the Pandora Papers, and the Paradise Papers all prove the exact same thing. The tools changed. The core trick never did. And here's the part that makes this bigger than just a mob story. Let me zoom out. Money has no morals. People do. A dollar bill doesn't tell a story on its own. The financial system tells the story for it. And the Mafia understood something most people never think about. Surviving for decades doesn't require more guns. It requires more receipts. That's the real reason those completely ordinary-looking shops on completely ordinary street corners became the central bank of a criminal empire, hiding in plain sight, one pizza slice at a time. And it's exactly why modern governments now spend billions of dollars every year chasing the money trail itself, instead of only chasing the criminals. Most people assume the Mafia's power came from the guns. But history keeps proving the opposite. The real power was sitting in the ledgers, in the receipts, in the paperwork nobody bothered to question. If you're into stories where economics, psychology, and the criminal underworld collide in ways you never expected, hit subscribe. Because next time, we're pulling apart another hidden system. One that's operating right behind events you already know the name of, but have never actually understood how they really work.